And more news coming in on the coronavirus outbreak. Wuhan, which is the epicenter of the virus, is going to be in fact restricting car traffic in the city, and this is going to happen from Sunday on. The government has issued a travel advisory to Indian travelers to China. Government says all non-essential travel to China is going to be avoided.
That's how it began. A disease that broke out thousands of kilometers away from us. A disease we thought would begin and end in China. But instead, it took over the whole world, bringing life to a standstill.
ये आवश्यक है कि वैश्विक महामारी के इस वातावरण में मानव जाति विजयी हो, भारत विजयी हो।
The first indication that the novel coronavirus would reach Indian shores came at the end of January 2020, a month after it was first reported in Wuhan.
This is big breaking news coming in, and this is very, very worrying for India. One positive case of the coronavirus has been detected. It has been detected in Kerala.
The Kerala government quickly swung into action, isolating the patient and tracing her recent contacts. In 5 days, Kerala declared it as a calamity.
This is after a third student tested positive for the infection in the state. West Bengal's government has identified at least 8 people who returned from China and travelled with the Kerala student from Wuhan.
With about 2,500 people placed in home quarantine in Kerala, the situation seemed to be under control, until Italy was identified as another possible hotspot. In the first week of March, 3 cases were reported. A 45-year-old man in Delhi who had travelled back to India, an Italian man in Jaipur who had earlier tested negative, a 24-year-old engineer in Hyderabad who had a travel history to the UAE. As cases kept rising, so did the panic buying.
Masks are being sold for double, triple rates at the moment in many of the shops, and the fact remains that there is not a single hand sanitizer, a thermometer or N95 mask available in this shop or any of the chemist shops in Mumbai.
On March 12th, a 76-year-old man from Kalaburgi, Karnataka, who had a travel history to the Middle East, became the first fatality due to COVID-19 in India. The government began urging people to disclose their travel history to contain the outbreak, but it seemed to fall on deaf ears.
An FIR has been registered against Bollywood singer Kanika Kapoor, who was confirmed as the first Indian celebrity to have tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the singer had recently returned from London, attended several parties in Lucknow before she was contracted with the coronavirus.
From March 22nd, India banned international flights, initially for just 1 week and then indefinitely. A ban on domestic travel soon followed, as did a 14-hour Janta curfew.
हम अपने घर के दरवाजे पर खड़े होकर या बालकनी में या खिड़कियों के सामने खड़े होकर 5 मिनट तक रविवार को शाम को 5 बजे 5 मिनट तक ऐसे लोगों का आभार व्यक्त करें.
And people across the nation did, from celebrities to politicians to the common man, gathering together to clap and cheer for the essential workers. Then came this bombshell.
हिंदुस्तान के हर नागरिक को बचाने के लिए, आपको बचाने के लिए, आपके परिवार को बचाने के लिए आज रात 12 बजे से घरों से बाहर निकलने पर पूरी तरह पाबंदी लगाई जा रही है.
With that, the once bustling roads of India stood empty as people kept to their homes, only venturing out to buy essential items. The decision was praised as a bold move and the only one available to curb the spread of the virus. But it had a devastating impact on the informal sector.
The lockdown has stranded thousands of casual workers in Delhi who are now struggling to survive. While some are taking the long road home, others are reduced to living life on the roads, queuing for handouts and risking mass infections.
In terms of human cost, it was incalculable. Apart from losing their daily earnings, migrant workers had to walk on foot for days to reach their village, often on empty stomachs. Although citizens largely stayed at home, there were many who broke the curfew and were severely punished. There were also other methods that police resorted to keep people in line. Then came news that a gathering of Tablighi devotees in Delhi led to India's first cluster outbreak.
One center in Delhi has now become the epicenter for not just a cluster outbreak but for a possible community outbreak across India.
The Tablighi Jamaat case unleashed a wave of Islamophobia until the Supreme Court finally had to intervene. Meanwhile, even with the lockdown firmly in place, cases in India kept rising.
We are over 9,000 cases now. The worry seems to be this, the rate of addition of new cases. We're adding 700 plus, and that number seems to be hovering around that figure. We need to bring that down to single digits.
Maharashtra in particular was worrying, given its high population density and the rapid spread of the virus in slum areas.
Okay, bad news once again, and this is from Mumbai. Number of positive cases in Mumbai's Dharavi has now crossed the 100 mark. 101 cases is where Dharavi stands today. 10 deaths reported so far.
Amidst the gloom and doom, there emerged a few good Samaritans. One of them, actor Sonu Sood, emerged as a real-life hero.
Actor Sonu Sood, he's been organizing transport for stranded migrant workers in Mumbai who have run out of cash and patience. His buses take them back to Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Jharkhand and Bihar. In the last 2 days, Sonu Sood has expanded his philanthropy and launched a toll-free number for people to contact him in case they need his help.
Actually, these are the people who build our homes, our roads, our offices. And now when they want to go back to their homes, there's no one to help them, and they are, I would say, feeling so helpless that, there's no one actually to take them back to their homes. The states are not accepting them. Then I realized that it's not about the story of 350, but the millions who are stuck. So then I thought, no, it's a journey that has to continue, and I'll make sure that every migrant who's stuck anywhere in the part of the country, I'll make sure that he will reach his home safely. So that's what I've been doing now.
With industries and MSMEs struggling to make any income during the lockdown period, India announced a limited unlock in June.
So we are in the famous Jhandewala market of Delhi. It's a cycle market. If you just see the crowd here, there's not enough space to maintain the kind of social distancing. Behind me, you can see that group there. They're trying to buy their cycles. Not enough space, and yet this is when the odd even is still in place.
The line you see behind me is not outside a supermarket, grocery store for any essential service. But this is a line at Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam Center in Hyderabad. And these people who are in the line are here to pick up the famous prasad of the Tirumala temple, that's the laddu.
But despite precautionary measures and strict guidelines, the cases continue to rise.
Big day today, India crossing the 10 lakh mark. Only the third country in the world to have 10 million cases. Remember, the active cases right now are inching close to that 3.5 lakh mark. 34,000, almost 35,000 cases added over a 24-hour period. That again is a new high in terms of the daily infections. The number of deaths also going past 25,000 today. 687 again is a new record for the number of deaths.
In just 30 days, that number had doubled. By August, most local businesses were up and running as the world and India limped back to normalcy with its public events and private ceremonies. By mid-September, India had reached its peak, after which cases started declining. Corporate offices continued working from home, and online classes also continued in full swing as young children learned to adapt to the new normal.
Is India past its COVID peak? Yes, says the government. It also says that 30% of our population has already developed antibodies, which means 30% of Indians have had COVID and recovered from it.
During this time, the world also realized that a vaccine was the only way out of this chaos. And global vaccine makers rushed with their research and trials to perfect the COVID-19 vaccine. India too saw a glimmer of hope.
India started work on the vaccine quite early. Serum Institute of India had a tie-up with AstraZeneca in the first week of June itself to deliver for India and other low-income countries.
November saw a flurry of activity on the vaccine front, with several vaccines reporting over 90% efficacy in their phase 3 trials. Bharat Biotech's co-vaccine trials saw high-profile volunteers like AMU VC Professor Tariq Mansoor and Haryana Minister Anil Vij. India has seen a drastic rise in COVID-19 cases over the months, But with mandatory mask wearing and social distancing rules, we have largely been able to contain it. Now that vaccination trials have begun, the focus is now on logistics and how to deliver these vaccines to 1 billion Indians in 2021.